You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast.
I'm running this monkey farm now, Frankenstein, and I want to know what the fuck you're doing with my time.
Hello, welcome to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Its purpose is to dissect and discuss classic films of the horror genre, but we also have the occasional chat around the contemporary films that are tickling the old taste buds and flicking the old pulse within the horror circuit. This particular podcast, we're going to continue our George A. Romero film discussions, and in particular to carry on the films that kind of gave him the name Godfather of the Dead, and they were the original trilogy of the Dead films, and we're up to the point of the last of those original trilogies, Day of the Dead. Before we get any further, I should introduce myself. I'm Paul Farrell, and I'm joined by none other than Richard Lovegrove for these discussions on Day of the Dead. Welcome aboard, and thanks for joining me, Richard.
G'day, yes, I am a nun, another nun. Yes.
You're a nun. Are you a nun?
I'm another nun. Yes, that's the nun.
I did wonder why you were wearing the habit.
Well, I'm back into it.
Yeah, that's it.
And excited to be here. Thanks for asking me.
No worries. Thanks for coming aboard. This is your sophomore journey into our discussions, because you have joined us. Oh no, kind of. You definitely joined us on the IT discussions, didn't you?
That's right. Yeah.
And also the alternate commentary that we provided for those that dare kind of go through that pain with us again. But
that was good fun. Yeah.
It was actually really good looking back at the original film. But yeah, it's good to have you on board to talk about a different movie. Before we begin, and I asked this of all my fellow podcasters, is do you remember the first time you saw this film and what was your immediate reaction to it? There was obviously a follow-up question to that, because obviously it's part of a trilogy. So what one do you remember watching first of the trilogy?
Yeah, well, actually, I remember watching the out of the quadrilogy. I actually saw Land of the Dead first, and and so that sort of drew me back down to go, okay, well, I want to see the other ones. But actually, before that, even thinking about it, what drew me to go, I want to see the other films, was I heard about, I can't remember his name, Tom Savini, Sex Machine.
Tom Savini, man, yeah.
And so I knew him from Dusk Till Dawn, because that film was just blew me away, because I thought it was one thing and then it turned around to another. But after seeing Land of the Dead and seeing how they had portrayed that zombie thinking out of its, it wasn't just the conventional zombie, it was trying to do what they're sort of doing with Westworld now, which is fantastic, with the DeLorean character. So that sort of went, okay, I really like that sort of film and that premise. And so I started watching some of the older films, and I sort of went really out of order, because after that I came across, what was it, Dawn of the Dead, which was the remake version. Then I saw the original version of that, and I thought it really campy, and sort of that was when I was sort of making a lot of films early off, and I was going, okay, well, they're getting away with a lot of things, but I was still not convinced by the cheesiness of it until I saw Night of the Living Dead. And that's when I sort of, everything fell into place. All of the crudeness of it just went, no, this completely works, because it's the idea of these zombies. And I went, okay, well, for me, it wasn't that hot a conventional sort of zombie film. Same as Dawn of the Dead. It was a lot of chaos. And I was like, oh, okay. Then I watched Day of the Dead, and it was the progression of that, which was just the one character of Dr. Frankenstein and his connection to Bub, which was just, that was the huge bonding element that just made me go, oh, you can't help but feel for this character as an animal, or as a tree, or as a single-celled organism, in its bare animalistic state, just learning and interpreting and seeing that thought process. And the actor who played it, Howard Sherman, was just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's fantastic. I mean, there's a reason that his character has stood the test of time, and is so iconic. It's his portrayal of it is amazing. And I do want to touch on the whole Frankenstein element as well, because I mean, the characters in it even call him Dr. Frankenstein. Because of his kind of Logan. Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's what I love too about the film. Everyone is not likable, even
Yes.
the main characters who you go, you're supposed to like this person, or you're supposed to like Sarah's character. I think that the main character,
Yeah.
and yet she hasn't got necessarily redeemable qualities.
Yeah.
Then you've got even Dr. Logan, who I was all on board for, and then you see him just being an asshole to everybody else and just going, "Oh yeah, well he's just meat. He's just I know he was your friend, but I don't really care." And
Yeah.
like, and
It's
the delivery
he's so far down the rabbit hole in his pursuit of this creation that anything else just is secondary, isn't it, to it? So
yeah, it is like that sort of thing. When you look at all of the films, or many of the trilogy together, you can see the first one is sort of like right at the beginning of the outbreak, and it's supposed to be like you would experience it. It's just you or your family. It's a very small group of contained environments in this still wild world of people and zombies and wild animals. But then the next one, you go, okay, well, things are starting to break down. Society is broken down, but there's still wild people out there. There's still our conventionalism and playing with the consumerism idea in that sort of a same way that Shaun of the Dead plays with that, which is really, really fantastic. Leading everyone walking around like zombies. And the playful, silly music, and again Tom Savini running around giving pies, whipped cream pies in the face, and then you've got Day of the Dead, which is, I don't know, I always feel like it's at least like several years after or into the sort of thing when at the beginning of the film no one is around. They're calling out on the radio and no one's around, and now the people who are left are just by themselves and they're desperate. So it's like that film where it's that contained environment, but instead of going stay contained and in this small group for our own safety, they need to get away from each other for their own safety. And so
it is interesting, isn't it? Because like the whole, like you're right. I mean, maybe we should start kind of delving into the plot, because you kind of correctly alluded to the way we're introduced to these group of survivors, in the sense that we kind of almost similar to the way Dawn of the Dead finishes. We're inside a helicopter. As it's going over this city landscape, essentially, and it's just desolate, and we get an introduction to like there's 4 kind of characters in there. There's the token female character, as you've mentioned, Dr. Sarah Bowman, played by Laurie Cardilli.
So let's say she's the token, because she's quite strong. She does start off as the token, especially because she's in the relationship and he's just an asshole.
Yeah. He is totally like
Bastion.
Yes.
And the Irish Mr. Bean.
That's it, exactly. It seems like every moment they go, you need to say Mary, what was it? Oh my God, my mind just went blank.
Jesus, Joseph.
Jesus, Mary, Joseph. You're just like, just say it again. Swig, that's right. Token. Yeah. Very two-dimensional kind of character, really. In that sense.
Like, most characters are sort of pretty like fewer than 2 dimensions.
Like just no dimension.
We haven't gotten to Rhodes yet. I mean, his performance, people call it ham, but in some moments he's got such conviction that you could just call insanity.
That's the thing. Like when this movie came out, there was so much backslamming of this because it was deemed too hammy in places. But which look, I'm not going to argue about that, but I feel personally it kind of lends weight to this extreme kind of environment that they found themselves in.
Exactly.
It's like
why it felt like so far into it.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with that too, because as we then go on to find out, is that they're kind of secluded in this old mine shaft essentially, and it's like a bunker, but they're all kind of confined in this small space. And as we learn, there's only 12 survivors left at this point within that group. And things will get claustrophobic, things will get kind of heated, and people will get on each other's tits, and it's not gonna.
Absolutely, I love the scene of them driving around with the Winnebagos just everywhere, and it's desolate, because it makes us think of like the underground parking garages or something like that. But it when it's empty is so spooky. But then towards the end, I'm jumping ahead
That's
now.
okay. Yeah.
With that sequence that they allude to at the beginning when they're having that argument, feeding the zombies, or no, that's right, they're capturing them, and from that contraption they've made.
That's right. Yeah.
And that is so traumatic and hectic. Like, and that's the beginning, and you're like, whoa. But then to pay off with it later on with a different element that
yes,
this hollow chasms, this sort of shining like empty space is just terrifying. So they really play with it really well, even though they had the budget of I think only about $3 million or something like that, which was still the bigger budget for all three.
Yeah, that's right. It was 3 million. You're right, and but he actually had to condense that because he had a much bigger script for this.
That's right.
He wanted this to be his Epic of the Dead, like it was gonna be his like huge kind of. I think even Romero described it as his Gone with the Wind film.
That's right.
And he had so many plans for it, but like he kept having to scale it back, and to the point where it didn't work, and he had to rewrite it, and and then we get what we give, and
well, that's it too. It took 10 years, was it, for them from Night of the Living Dead till Dawn of the Dead, and then another 8 years from Dawn of the Dead till even though I don't know if Night of the Living Dead was such a commercial success, but I thought it definitely would have spawned a sequel. Even in those days, sequels were a hot thing.
Yeah. No, so the history behind that is that you're exactly right. It had such an impact on not just the horror genre, but movies in general. And I said this to my fellow podcaster Oscar when we were talking about Night of the Living Dead, is that when it was released, there was no classification rating on it, so it was actually open for families to go and watch. And there were like 9-year-old kids kind of crying.
This girl killing her mother with a trowel.
Yeah. So like after that, they had to kind of rethink how they were going to distribute these films, because it was. And the thing is, Romero doesn't hold back from kind of showing you things in a brutal fashion.
Absolutely. Especially in this film,
Yeah. And again, we should add that Savini's on board with the effects again, like he was in Dawn of the Dead.
That's right. That was his first feature film credit, wasn't it? Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah. That's right. And so, what was I going with that? Yeah. So when he made Night of the Living Dead, there was a lot of people really wanting him to make a follow-up or expecting him to make a follow-up sequel. And he kind of said, well, I've got these other films that I'm kind of working on, like I've been writing these scripts. So, he was adamant about, I guess, pursuing his creativity at that point. And that's where we got There's Always Vanilla, Season of the Witch, and The Crazies, in consecutive years released before. And they all kind of did like middle of the road stuff. And then he was starting to work on his full film Martin, which was a bit kind of an art house kind of vampire mythology piece. And it was at this point where he was starting to kind of think, oh, maybe I should have done a sequel, or have I missed the boat a bit? And he kind of felt like he may have missed the boat a little bit. And it was only upon meeting up with Dario Argento, he was in the States because he just released Suspiria, that Dario Argento kind of said, what are you working on? Are you doing any more stuff? And he said, well, I'm kind of thinking about doing a sequel to Night of the Living Dead. And George Romero said, oh, come out here. I'll pay for you to come live out in Italy and write it.
That's right. He was the Italian director, and that was he'd already had a look at the mall and went, well, we could do this with product placement too. And
that's right.
That's fantastic.
And it was because of Argento that the zombie trilogy, as in ZOMBI trilogy, then came about in Italy, and and a whole spin-off of a franchise was developed because of that.
Because wasn't it originally Night of the Flesh Eaters or something like that as well?
Yeah.
The term zombie only came around, as you said, when they took to international distribution.
That's it. That's exactly right.
Before that, zombies really came from a voodoo or hoodoo tradition, which was more like a mummified way that zombies are sort of taken, which was more like a hypnosis, and they go under a trance type state and perform their bidding and do that sort of stuff.
That's exactly right. And it was only when Romero kind of came up, because the word zombie is not mentioned in Night of the Living Dead.
No.
And there's a reason for that. And it's
I don't even know if any of the trilogies have it. I'm have to go through it, and I'll have to watch them all again. Oh, darn.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Yes.
I have to
Twist my arm.
Yeah. But yeah, like it's interesting because he essentially reinvented, as you said, what the term zombie meant. It was him that came up with. Oh, I say him. He worked closely with John A. Russo, who then teamed up with Dan O'Bannon to do the Return of the Living Dead series. But basically using the same kind of mythos of that they will eat brains, and the only way to stop them is to shoot them in the head.
Yeah.
None of that exists. Yeah, existed. And if you look at all how zombie films and even like the Walking Dead and things like that, none of that would exist without Romero and Russo's work.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of The Walking Dead as well, Greg Nicotero, was working on The Day of the Dead, and I think as well Dawn of the Dead. I'm not too sure.
Sure.
But he was definitely involved in Day of the Dead, doing a lot of this, and he's now the I think one of the principal directors of The Walking Dead, and does a lot of, if not Department of Visual Effects, doing the explosions and the zombie sort of things, and some of the stuff they do now is just crazy. You can see where in its early days of very bright reds, down to now rotting flesh and blue screen, like half a body.
Yeah, that's right. And you're right. He has, huge work that Nicotero has been working on, particularly in The Walking Dead, and and other stuff too. He's been working for a long time in the special effects area, and doing astounding work as well. I'm just quickly looking up some of the stuff now. Like he's been working in like films like Sin City and Serenity, and you name it. He's had
I didn't know that.
Dabbling stuff. The Django Unchained and
of course.
Yeah.
Some of those explosions. Absolutely.
That's right. And a lot. I think he's worked on a few of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of movies as well. And the Faculty, Army of Darkness. That's it. I knew him from.
Oh yes, that's it. Yeah. Of course he was.
Yeah.
Well, was he involved with Ash versus the Evil Dead at all?
I'm not sure, but he did work on Bride of Reanimator as well, which I know you're a big fan of the Reanimator series.
Yes, well, that's even going back to Dr. Logan. I mean, the parallels between him and the Doctor from the Reanimator series, I mean, is just was part of the draw as well. The second, watching what he was doing and go, oh, he's a much more empathetic sort of character that is this sort of crazy Doctor, but you can sort of see where he's coming from a little bit. But he's
Yeah, that's right. Cool. All right. So, as you said, so we had these. We've gone massively off tangent, but we love it. Really. No, but so yeah, as I said, so we do get this, as you mentioned, just going back to the very beginning of the film, this kind of feeling that the zombies now have overrun the world. They come out of the woodwork in these nooks and crannies of the city landscape, and we have these dispatch parties that are going out trying to find any other survivors out there, and always come back empty-handed. It is important to mention, as you said, that we do have the lead female character, Dr. Sarah Bowman, and her boyfriend, Private Miguel Salazar,
which only really gets established once they mention that they're in a relationship. In which case, you sort of go, "Oh, okay." But again, you put that down to the tension of the situation. I mean, I think they filmed it in Fort Myers, this one sequence, and you can see them standing out in the street, and just even, it's a long shot, and you've been told to sort of overact a little bit, but the way his performance, and he's the very honest actor, feels so desperate all through the film that it really feels like, there's this desperation that no one is out there. They've been trying this for so long. And then when they get back to the helicopter, the other two guys, the helicopter pilot, are just, they're so over it that they're apathetic about it. Sarah's the one who's really a level-headed protagonist at this point, which is sort of going, okay, well, maybe there's a little bit of hope with her.
Yeah, that's right. And that's exactly where we're supposed to be. We're kind of hanging on this one token of hope. You know, she's a scientist. You know, she's the one that's still trying to push things out there, and you can see, like you said, the two kind of pilots are the ones that are despondent, but we have this disheveled kind of private who's just kind of whimpering in the corner when they're flying, you know.
And he seems to be the only military man amongst the first 4 people that we see.
Yeah, that's right. So that is an indication that
just such a juxtaposition, really. Yeah,
exactly. And the fact that if he's the first representative of the army, who are an establishment that's meant to be solid, and practical, and he's just this wreck of a man.
That's a great point, actually.
Yeah, what does that say about who we're about to meet? And you know, it's an indication of who we are going to meet, because
I think he has the first line of the film, which is him yelling in the street or something, and that's as you say, the first instance we get is of this. What should be in control is out of control.
Yeah, and it's such a haunting thing, because like obviously he uses the tannoy megaphone thing, and it's just echoing around, and this, like you said, the oozing this desperate kind of need to connect again with anybody other than the people that he's with.
His girlfriend's standing right next to him, and he's please get me somebody else,
please. And it's a really quite interesting performance that I mentioned the actor's name. It's Anthony DeLeo Jr. That he does in this movie, because he's on the tipping point the whole way through it, and you question, like, it's interesting because I feel like Sarah's character has 4 big relationships going on in one way, shape, or form in this movie.
Exactly.
Obviously, the sexual relationship that she has with the boyfriend of the guy we're talking about, she has this very kind of close spiritual bond with the pilot John, played by Terry Alexander. Then she has the professional relationship with Dr. Logan, plus the alpha relationship with Rhodes, that's kind of playing along the whole science against physical kind of movement and adrenaline and manhood that Rhodes is exuding against her female kind of wisdom.
Once then they get down, like, you know, into that sort of bunker area, even from the beginning, she's challenging. She's the only one who is even questioning, like, you know, his what he's saying. But he turns up a little bit into the film. I think we see Dr. Logan first. Sorry, I don't remember.
No, we do. I think we do. Yeah, you're right. Because but when they land back at the I want to say a base, but it is a mine shaft kind of area. But I'll say base. Just
has this thing that goes down underground.
That's right. Yeah. And so but just before we go down, they kind of notice that there's a new grave, and they call out to a couple of the army guys, and we find out that it's actually the captain or the major. So we know again, like, as I said, they're giving you the clues that the army's falling apart because their leader has just died. So where does that leave things? So we still don't meet Rhodes yet, who's the captain, and he will become, like, you know, the lead protagonist in this, or antagonist, sorry, in this movie.
Antagonist,
but yeah, we do meet Dr. Logan first. As I said, who's known as Frankenstein, which I completely love.
Absolutely.
And he has this kind of belief that he can train these zombies to become domestic and docile, and he's doing a lot of tests and stuff to kind of champion his cause.
The brain exposed, and he's got all the probes with that, and it's still moving about on the table. And then the other one, because I saw just before this the behind the scenes footage of the actor when his guts spill out. And just them shooting that a couple of times, and just how brilliant it was, and how they use the magical technique of just darkening certain areas, and as he rolls over and stuff. Fantastic. But even just that sort of fascination, because from that point too, Dr. Logan, they reference a dead body on the ground, and he said, "Oh, he was useless.
Yes.
Or, he was too unruly. I had to put him down, or something."
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you get this idea that even though like this doctor, he's just no fuss, no muss. They're just a sort of a thing we're using, not even an animal. It's just a machine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. And he's purely there to. He has a very scientific approach, logical approach to things. And to him, they aren't people anymore. Like, and that's why when he starts using the bodies of the dead army characters that are in the movie, because he sees them as food or a source of learning how these things work.
Well, that's it. If they're not using it, it's better to rot in the ground than to help the experiment. Exactly.
Yeah.
But also too, seeing that character even from the progression of the first introduction that you see, it's this idea of him going he's interested about the brain thing, but you don't see his empathy towards the creature yet.
No,
I don't think. And I think that's a really interesting thing. Yeah, he that's right. He kills it. He puts a drill in the brain of the one that spills its guts out.
That's it.
So I like it how it's still at this point you're saying, okay, so Sarah and Logan are the only two sort of sane ones. Or for me at least, they were at least they're grounded somewhat in some sort of sensible. They're not hysterical yet.
No, that's right. But he does slowly become unhinged.
Oh yes, as it goes on, you sort of go. Okay.
I just love how manic he gets by the end of it.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. So yeah, and then I think it's then that we do get to meet some of the soldiers and the tension, and they're bored out their minds. They don't know what they're doing, and there's this kind of real like male kind of. I kind of immediately think how Jarhead was with Jake Gyllenhaal, and this kind of how that kind of played on the whole boredom that these kind of army officials do when they're just in the middle of nowhere. They got nothing to do. There's a similar kind of thing going on, but they're all kind of in this little warren,
looking out and laugh at the top of their voices. I remember that big guy, and he like throwing things, and he's just even his death, as well, gets spoilers. Gets sort of to that over the top sort of thing. But again, I think it works in that sort of environment of this enclosed sort of chaotic world.
It's interesting because when I was I don't know about your thoughts on this though, because it is kind of deemed the lesser of the original trilogy, and it's debatable where my thoughts end on that, because I kind of oscillate around. But I did kind of re-watch this movie ahead of the podcast, and I remember thinking this is better than I actually thought it was, than I remember it being. The effects are brutal in this. Like the makeup team are on fire with the stuff they're doing in this. It's pretty gruesome stuff we're seeing.
I think even the title card of that the grey-haired guy with his jaw off.
Yeah, how awesome is that? That first intro of the zombie. Oh,
he just looks around and his jaw's still biting and gnawing, and you're just like, whoa! And that's the opening shot of the film, and you're just like, whoa! It's brilliant that he went with a no classification. That's it. Other films that are big now, the R rating allows you to push it that little bit more, and it's nothing that we haven't seen before, because they're adding blood now to a slash.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I had forgotten about that. But yeah, I remember, as I said, when I was rewatching it, I was like, that's such an awesome effect, and you already kind of know the tone. You're like, yeah, we're back in the Dead series here.
And it's Gilliam as well. Like when he has Jabberwocky, it's dirt, gritty, and it makes you feel that. That's what's good about film. Otherwise it would be on a book. You can read that sort of mythical horrors and imagine whatever it could be, but he will show the grit, will show the gore.
Yes.
And these films really personify that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So I guess then the next bit is where we would you call it the mess hall? I guess it's kind of where they tend to congregate.
That's where they pull everyone together and
and this is where that Rhodes is we kind of really get the proper introduction of Rhodes at this point, and he's talking about the death of the major, and that he's now going to be taking command of the base. He is not too shy in coming forward about his disliking of the scientists and what they are doing.
To put it lightly. Let's see, it's brilliant too, because the actor too just fulfills that entire space. His echoes the chasms, and the pauses that's given to by the editor just gives his speech so much weight, even though what he's saying is so what is it, misogynistic or well, not even necessarily misogynistic, but just sort of too authoritative. Just far too.
Oh yeah. Like he really goes to town with it. He's Joseph Pilato, actually. He's the character's name who plays Rhodes. Oh, sorry, the actor's name that plays Rhodes. Yeah. And he did crop up in Dawn of the Dead. I can't remember who he was in it, but he was in that, and that's how he kind of. And actually, I was reading up about this, and the only reason that when they've spoken, previous interviews and stuff, the only reason he was able to get the role from his point of view is because the budget dropped so dramatically, and they kind of needed somebody in, and that's how he ended up landing the part of Rhodes. He wasn't initially who they had in mind.
Yeah,
which I think is funny.
North, because same as in Robin Hood Men in Tights, the guy who played the king, and I was just like King Richard, and I was just like, I can't imagine. I haven't seen him in anything else before, and then I saw his stand-up, and I was like, oh, he's a stand-up comedian, awesome! And so I watched all his stuff. But he was in a couple of other things, and again, very memorable roles, which unfortunately are forgettable to me at the moment. But you watch even when they do catch-up interviews and reunions now, and podcasts, Comic-Con type.
The Comic-Cons,
Yeah, and he's just as sort of rambunctious and vivacious as he is on screen. His long hair, like Meatloaf and stuff. Repeating the lines is just fantastic.
That's right. Yeah, it's awesome. So like he's kind of he's throwing his thing around, really, essentially, isn't he?
Yeah, pissing on everything.
Yeah, that's it. And then we
Sarah walks away from the room with the other scientist who has that sort of musketeer moustache. He doesn't say anything. I always wanted him just to sort of fight back a little bit. He was like the little chipmunk that you wanted to strike. But she walks away and she says, yes, sir, and fuck you, or something like that.
Yeah.
Sorry if you have to bleep that out.
No, we don't need to bleep out the swears. We're all good. I put up a classification explicit thing so that we can freely say fuck and shit. And I was going to say the other one, but I always try and refrain from saying that one. But so what was that? She does show her disdain, but she's. I may be jumping ahead, but it's just this isn't the bit where they have the complete.
This is the one where Logan comes in, is it?
Yes, where Logan comes in and he has no idea of what has fallen before him and how tense this situation is. Yeah, and he just kind of I love this scene. Just kind of waltzes in and just starts eating and just kind of explaining what he's working on, and Rose just doesn't know what to do with him.
After Rhodes has established himself as this sort of like no fuss, no muss, even his own men are being told to shut up and they're getting pissed off, and this huge silence, and then he just suddenly walks in. Oh yes, I know I'm late. Is there food? And it's just delivery of I know, but is there food? That's it. That actor and the same actor as from what was it? Reanimator. Just their performance and the delivery is so iconic that you can't help but go that only that actor could play that role.
Absolutely, I just love that scene. It's just so, and then he really kind of, he's the one that puts it on the table and just says, where are you going to go? What you want to, you say you're going to go and leave, but what's out there? There's nothing out here. We've only got what's here, and we need to learn from what's in here. It's
the only hope we have is to try and find some way of doing that, because otherwise we're going to be over.
Yeah, because we're overrun. There's just too many of them out there.
Also, too, scene where it's that. In a lot of conventional scenes, when you see a scene alone or it's written for TV or something like that, you'll see the arc of the scene, and it usually ends with one character's status being redeemed, or like that idea of going there's a status shift or a plot change or something like that. In this scene, it really seems like they're at equal heads. It's like two rams, just equal size, and no one wins. Neither side wins. It's just both of them are reaffirming their dominance, because that's it. Even if you say one side has more logic than the other, both of them are approaching it in the way of just going, yes, but that's it. And you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, it is. It's a complete kind of clash. This is stalemate at this situation. And of course, it's not going to last that long. There'll be something that'll happen that'll be like the last kind of Jenga piece that's pulled out before everything will tumble down.
And there's only so many Jesus, Mary, Josephs.
That's it. And it kind of starts happening at look, you got to look. Where's the weakness here? And at the moment, we've already been established that from the opening shot that we have this character Miguel who's completely coming apart. Sorry, you
at that stage. Whilst we're going through this with he's not at that meeting. He's given a sedative. That's right. She gives him a sedative or a shot.
Yes.
And he doesn't want to take it, and he gives it to her, and he calls her a bitch as he's passing, and he says we're over. Or I think that's like he breaks up with her, and it's just like this sort of harsh, sort of.
Yeah, he's just like
a couple of scenes. So you keep bringing us down. This film keeps going, like. Everything is there's no good in the world. The only hope is Logan, who's killing zombies because he doesn't really care. He's at least apathetic.
Yeah, that's right. At least he has an answer, or a solution that may kind of be the only way out of here. As deranged as he gets, it's it's an interesting one. But you're right. So there is that scene between Sarah and Miguel. And he is really offhand with her and a real dick.
That's right.
But I kind of can't help but think, and correct me if you disagree with me if you will, but I feel like that scene is his way of saying I've given up, and and he can't actually do that without actually severing off Sarah, so he has to be a complete bastard to her. To kind of end that, so then that he's free to just kind of just give up.
He wants to just fall into a hole and die. Exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
But it's short of I can't remember at the beginning if he's not trying to commit suicide, is he? Someone's going to throw him into there because he's sick, or because is he sick?
No, not at this point. Which bit are we at? Sorry. That's the bit we're about to come to.
No, right at the beginning, once they get back from the helicopter thing.
No, but he is showing signs of being kind of.
No, they just try and catch the zombies. That's right. And
So I think the next where I was coming to is that they do these kind of. I don't really understand why they do this, but they do this kind of like zombie roundup stuff where they use these kind of, like you said, these contraptions, which are almost like when you herd cattle, or you need to get them into a pen.
With like a dry dock sort of situation.
Yeah, that's right. But it kind of goes a bit pear-shaped, and one of the zombies kind of escapes from its harness, and we end up having two of the soldiers kind of killed out. One of them is Gregory Nicotero, which we were talking about earlier. Right. And he has a bit of a grisly death scene. And then during this point, Miguel gets bitten by one of the creatures.
Oh, that's it.
And he's kind of like saying, "It wasn't my fault. It wasn't, it's not because of me." Because Sarah's kind of looking at him, and he's like, "I know I'm a fuck up. I know I'm a failure," but he's still trying to deny that.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of goes nuts and then starts running off. And Sarah has to kind of like chase after him, and he ends up at the place. This is interesting too. So like the helicopter pilot and Jesus, Mary, and St. Joseph's guy are
Rowan Atkinson.
Right, yeah, that's they're kind of in their own kind of like Winnebago, aren't they? Like kind of often away from everyone. They're very secluded and keep to themselves.
Yeah, they've sort of made their own little pseudo indoor outdoor 1960s Lido deck sort of thing with fake grass and like bench chairs and stuff like that, and little I swear that there's flamingos. I'm gonna have to check that now. There's little lawn flamingos.
I think you might be right. I mean,
tents or something.
Yeah, that's right. They're trying to make a home within a home.
And then he has this fantastic speech. I can't remember what it's about, but I do remember. No, that's Irish. That's the wrong one. It's Sebastian. Anyway, just imagine him and Ariel. Oh, that's right. You go down under the sea. He has this fantastic, brilliant sort of philosophy, and it sort of explains too why from the beginning we haven't seen them causing a problem as much as we've seen the other guy sort of drinking away his problems, and he still does it not in a sort of shy drinking quietly to himself. He'll just say, "No, I do it my own way, and why not?" and then drinks away. But yeah, you sort of get to see them in this sort of happy little. We make what we can of it. I guess that is a cornerstone of the human. Like whatever you give us, we'll sort of have to try and deal with that situation. But what weirds me out is like they've stayed there and they haven't really had an idea of going. Well, we should get out. I don't know. The second that Rhodes scene happened, the first time you see Rhodes, I would have thought it's probably time to go. The old captain's dead. This guy's in charge.
Yeah. Oh god, he's a dick.
Yeah, because is Sarah the only female down there too?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
So that was worrying me from the beginning. I remember in Maze Runner when the woman comes up to the level, and I was just like, oh no, I don't know if it was just me jumping to conclusions, but it was that sort of thing of going post-apocalyptic. A couple of years after that, and it's the first woman they've seen. It's not going to end well.
And that's why, I think like her character is grossly underrated because she really holds her own. What was really what's really kind of interesting around this period as well is we have that and I can't remember who she ends up comforting or being comforted by, but there is a point where Sarah completely loses it and becomes unhinged herself. And it's that moment where you just she can't lose it. Come on, she's like the only stable one there, and it's either John or the Irish dude. It's the one that has to kind of go. No, it's gonna be okay. We need to get through this.
Yeah, she's our only anchor there that we really want to see succeed. The other guys sort of seem happy with giving up. So it's sort of like
yeah.
That Luke Skywalker, he's the only one with hope.
That's exactly right, and I like the similarities to you.
Yeah, and then she just throws away whatever Bub. Yeah. She just throws him away.
She does. Yeah, followed by 2 droids, and something about her father.
All the Jedi.
Yeah, that's it. So the Miguel character, that's right. So he's been bitten on the arm. So then this is the point where they knock him out, and she performs an amputation on his arm, and they have to cauterize him. It's such a great moment, and he wakes up like that way they rip his arm off as well. Like they actually cut his arm off. It's fucking great.
Yeah. I think I've blocked that bit out because I can't remember it as well as all the other things. But knowing it was gory, I can't remember that bit.
Yeah, they have to amputate him, and he kind of wakes up at the point where they're cauterizing him as well. And you're just like, Jesus. Yeah, you just think,
that's right, yeah, and they're holding him down. That's right.
There's
so many levels of insanity in these films that you sort of can't help but cringe but not look away because you're going, I can feel for them. And that's it. And that character playing Miguel, he's such an honest sort of character that you just that you just put right in there and feeling it.
Yeah, that's right. So things are really coming off the what's the expression? Coming off the hinges. Anyway, at this point,
coming off the hinges, going in the deep end.
Yeah. So, and we get like a Rose. Basically, he's had enough. He's like, all the experiments need to stop right now. All the captive zombies need to be destroyed. And then we get Sarah and Bill kind of discovering exactly what Dr. Logan's been up to in his labyrinth of experiments.
That's right. Yeah.
And they hear like audio. It's an audio tape, isn't it, of Logan kind of.
Yeah. So he's been teaching from that earlier scene. You sort of get the idea that he's been using other living dead. I didn't want to say zombies, but other zombies before this, and they haven't worked out. And this is one has. He says he allows him to stay alive because he does have this cognitive ability to retain information. And so in this scene, he brings out a tape recorder with headphones, and he plays a piece of music, and Bub responds to it and likes it. And then he stops it and he gets upset, and then he waves his finger and he shows him how to turn it on, and he turns it on himself, and then he writes down in his notes, Logan does. And I watched a Q&A just before this of was it Howard Sherman?
Howard Sherman, Sherman Howard.
So Sherman Howard, who played Bub. And he said that George Romero said, if you have any suggestions, because I would love to include Bub in a little bit more, because he doesn't have any dialogue in the film. If you have any suggestions, that'd be great. And so he used to jog every day, and his excuse was he wanted to keep fit because he was smoking at the time, the 70s or the 80s. But he used to listen to his headphone, his Walkman, because he said they just came out. And so he said he wanted to, he thought it'd be fascinating to see what Bub's sort of response to headphones would be, and an audio device playing through a different sense. And so, and they asked him what he thought he was, the music that was coming through that. And he said it has to be something classical. He was thinking something like Beethoven or something like that. And I think that's who George Romero went, that's fine. It was Beethoven. But I always thought it was a military. Just because, he does the salute when he first meets Rhodes, when he just sort of stumbles and sort of sees what he's doing there, and he thinks it's a whole bunch of waste of time. But Bub sees him in his military outfit, in his camos, and he salutes him, and he doesn't return the salute at all.
No.
That's right. This is immediately following this scene, isn't it? Because this is the scene the Musketeer and Sarah are watching, and they're both in awe, but also they don't think it's reasonable to keep this thing alive.
Yeah.
But it also gets hinted to as well that he's feeding him treats.
Yes,
well.
it is. Yes.
Point like
he's talking about there has to be a reward system.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and you sort of see the bucket, I think, in the first scene, and then as it progresses, you go, "Oh, okay, so that's what that sort of was."
Yeah.
That's great. I'm trying to think of whether or not this is the scene where this isn't the climax, because there's two scenes where Rhodes meets Bub.
That's right.
And this first one, he hands him the gun after this, and he sees that's right. Logan stands in front of him, salutes, returns, looks at it all over, and he cocks the pistol, and the music changes and goes to this synth, "Did you?" really cool sort of thing, and he just sort of gives a nasty look up towards Rhodes and points it towards him. And it's this fantastic moment where you're just going, "Oh my god!" Because you can see the actor is like he said he was playing it like a child. You can see this very base instinct, sort of slowly learning, recognizing, feeling, and acting out will. And you can see that this whole process going, I want this to happen.
Yes.
I think that's what it's going to do, and it's just brilliant. That sequence is fantastic.
No, that's right. I completely can go with you. It's a great point, and I again love Logan's little quip to Rose, just going, "It's okay. The bullet's removed. You saw me do that earlier. Because Rose is kind of flinching at the fact he's going to get shot at. It's just I just like that little play between the two of them. But you're right there, and there is there was a comic about Bub's backstory too, and that he was from the military, which is why he instantly recognizes the uniform when Rhodes comes in. And to know the salute, and that's where that all comes from.
Was it?
Yeah. There was like a little spin-off comic. I wouldn't be able to tell you what it's called off the top of my head. But yeah, and yeah, it just plays on that whole thing that he was in the army himself.
Yeah.
So
from there, because this is now where things are really starting to just.
That's right. Yeah. So
things are falling apart, but things are just now unraveling.
Yeah. So Sarah and Bill are like at this point going like, we need to probably leave and get out of here. So like to get to the helicopter before anyone else comes up with that idea. And then this is when this is the point where Rhodes then actually finds out that Logan has been feeding the flesh to the soldiers of the dead soldiers to Bub.
He sees he's still got his camos on or something.
Yeah.
And it's just like he didn't even like try and cover his tracks. I get this sort of childlike innocence even from Frankenstein. He's so smart. He just doesn't care about. But they're just meat now. Like,
yeah. Why? Exactly.
But yeah, that's the final straw. If there was a final straw for Rhodes.
Yeah. And then he just completely unleashes and they just shoots Logan. Completely obliterates him with a gun, doesn't he? And shoots him down, killing him.
And it's fun because every time I see that, I always think that it's such a sad. It doesn't seem. I can never remember how Logan dies.
Yeah,
but it sort of works out with what happens with Bub.
Yes,
is his payoff because it's that homage. It's that Frankenstein. It's not Frankenstein's story. It's the monster story.
Exactly, that's correct. Yeah,
but which one is which? Yeah, but that just wiping him off makes both the bad guy far colder.
Yeah.
And also Sarah not seeing it, and none of the sort of our protagonists, our eyes seeing it. We just sort of hear about it really from the antagonist point of view.
Yeah, that's right. And it's through Bub that we kind of again have that empathy again that you were referring to. That is, and so we see that through his eyes,
when his chain's broken. I can't remember how his chain is actually broken, but I love it, the imagery of him just holding it there.
Yeah, to kind of, but yeah, that's right. We may be jumping ahead, but that's fine.
Oh yeah, sorry.
But it's the bit where when he sees Logan on the floor, doesn't realize he's dead at this point.
This is just before that, but
yeah. But he I love the bit he holds the chain up to go, oh look, this is broken.
Yeah. He's
to kind of say, I don't know. Yeah, and then it's just the acting is great. And
it's so gorgeous as well. No dialogues needed, just to have that sort of it's the Rocky Horror Picture Show when I saw it as a kid. The Frankenfurter when he gets killed.
Yeah.
Music builds and Rocky just picks him up and is just wailing in agony, and he's this mortal, Iron Man, like nothing can kill him, yet his father, his lover, his everything has just been destroyed.
That's right.
And so it's just great, and then he just goes off and has fun. But before that, Sarah, because it sort of cuts back and forth.
Yes,
Sarah leaves because she doesn't see Logan's death.
No.
Something happens with not Miguel yet.
No. Yeah, the Miguel thing hasn't happened yet. So this is. So you're right. I think this is where, because just before that, Logan's death, that's where Sarah and Bill say we need to get to the helicopter before anyone else does. So I think they then go back to find John, and that's when the death happens, and then. Then Rhodes kind of gets Musketeer Doctor Dude together, and he somehow he gets hold of. No, he does get hold of Sarah and Bill, and that's right. And then he locks him in that kind of in the zombie corridor thing.
That cattle thing.
Yeah, that's right. And that's when he gets John together as well, and he's basically like
crazy.
Yeah, he says we're going to get out of here, and you're going to fly us away. And John immediately refuses to do it, and that's when they kill Musketeer Doctor.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And he basically says, "I'm not going to do it." And he says, "Well, we're gonna put them in. We're gonna basically feed them to the zombies if you don't." And he's like, "I'll do what you want. I'll do what you want." And he goes,
"That's right.
We're gonna feed them to the zombies anyway."
But then they realize that if they I can't remember which one it is. I think it's either Rowan Atkinson or Sebastian who realizes that it's endless sort of caverns in there. So there is a vast amount of space. It's pitch black, but it's just like being outside with the zombies. Sort of just at least they're not human. At least they haven't got guns.
Yeah. That's right.
So they sort of run off and are having that. Whilst then, we're cutting back to what's happening with Rhodes and the last of what's happening at the base.
Yeah, that's right. And so then, as we said, that's when Bub he escapes, like we said earlier. He sees Logan's body, and then that great scene that we were talking about, where he's first sad and then he's enraged by what he sees, and then he picks up the pistol that's on the floor as well, and he's like, it's almost intent on revenge at this point.
Yeah, because at this point it's as well, Rhodes is sort of backing around. Oh, just before this as well, Miguel intermittently has sort of woken up at this point, and he's got his rosary beads or his medallion, something around it. I think it's the Mother Mary or something, one of those little tokens. And he keeps clinging to that, and he's trying to get out. I'm not exactly sure. We don't know what he's doing, but he's running.
No,
and he's running back towards somewhere, and it ends up. Well, we'll play it out like the film. And so whilst this happens, Bub then rounds the corner whilst Rhodes is going sort of apeshit crazy, trying to at every turn gets confronted by zombies. And that guy as well is trying to run away and kill a whole bunch of things and gets completely devoured. The other guy gets his head ripped off with this sort of high-pitched squeal. It's crazy.
Where we've just kind of jumped over is that Miguel gets outside of the platform.
Yes, he makes the lift.
Yeah, he gets out, and then he basically self-sacrifices himself because he's done, and he's like, if I'm going to go, I'm going to take everyone with me, essentially. And he basically lets all the zombies into the complex, which is when everything just goes nuts, as you said.
Yeah.
We get
runs up to the top, lies down, lets them just feast on him, and halfway through presses the button, and
that's
it's just gross. But
I do love this one shot as well. It's like, they're all kind of being lowered down the platform, giving this whole kind of what's going on moment, and then randomly one zombie just drops through the floor.
It falls off.
Yeah. I love it.
That's it. There's so many takes like that. You just think, I wonder if they the actor just fell, couldn't see through the prosthetic or something. But then you'll see in the behind the scenes, there's this one stunt actor who's amazing. He gets kicked by someone who's riding a golf cart at one point, and you see in the behind the scenes, he just goes, "Oh no, just go for it," and he just kicks him, and he obviously doesn't actually kick him, but he does the stunt perfectly, and you go, "That's brilliant!" And then he does it 3 times. And it's exactly the same every time. Those guys need Oscars. God damn it, Hollywood.
Yeah, I know. They're the unsung heroes, aren't they, really?
The
extent that they kind of throw themselves into these things to get that take.
Exactly. Yeah. Not everyone gets the recognition Tom Cruise gets.
No, that's right.
But so he's gone up to the lift.
Yeah, that's right. Brought them all down, and that's when
sacrifice. Yeah, and the music's building and do synth.
Don't forget synth. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well.
So we get like the basically all the privates all start getting kind of ripped apart. That sounds really rude.
I was about to say they all get their privates out, and
the privates are exposed, and
it is the end of the world.
Yeah, it all gets a bit hairy. So they all kind of like butchered up one by one, and then we get you get the two kind of the two privates essentially that are kind of they kind of destroyed very quickly, and then we get the bigger guy who's the one that's kind of going, "Damn you, Rose, you bastard!"
That's right,
and then he gets overrun and he ends up shooting himself in order to not turn into one of them, and they then there's this long drawn. Oh no, is that at that point? Yeah, before Rose's demise, do we get that kind of long drawn out? Oh no, we get the Rhodes bit first.
I think it was or sort of intercut because we're following Bob sort of slowly coming out of the thing as Miguel's slowly going up to the lift, as Sarah's slowly they're running through the dark. As well as the big guy and the other guy sort of running after them and slowly getting kicked off one by one. But as you say, Rhodes has pretty much gotten to the end. Oh, there's this whole sequence of locking of the doors.
Yeah,
remember?
That's right. Yeah,
He's trying and he finally gets through.
Yeah,
but he's confronted by
that's
a horde.
That's right. There's a great bit, isn't there, where just before that, where he comes face to face with Bub, and Bub salutes him again.
That's right.
And then he's got the gun, and he starts shooting Rhodes. And,
randomly, and he takes him like out by the leg or something like that. And you're like, what?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so and because Rhodes' gun isn't working, so like he's then kind of hobbling away to try and get away from this one zombie, and that's that great shot, isn't there, where he thinks he's free, gets to the door, opens it up, and there's just a horde of zombies that completely pull him apart. And that great line where he says, "Choke on them!"
As Bub's there saluting, it's fantastic.
And
he gets like ripped in two, doesn't he? His legs and his torso get torn apart.
In two, and yet he's still able to talk.
It's like choke on him. Oh, it's so great. Good. But just his yell, anything that guy yells is just it's a bumper sticker, it's a meme, it's a soundbite. It's
that's right.
Fantastic.
That's right.
It needs to be like your ringtone or something like that.
Yeah.
So that creepy. Coupled with a Cthulhu, I'll swallow your soul.
It's one of the most quoted lines, I think, in definitely in zombie horror.
Absolutely, yeah.
So and then we get this so we've had John, the helicopter pilot, does reunite with Sarah and Irish dude in that kind of rabbit warren kind of area, and they eventually kind of somehow find another way out.
How they back up the surface?
I don't know. They just somehow do, and there's like this gate, and they end up getting to the helicopter.
Remember the slippers? You had the power all along.
That's right. But I do have a question for you, and I don't know where we take this, because when she gets to the helicopter and she opens the door, and then this zombie hand kind of reaches for her from inside the helicopter, and then it cuts to then her waking up on a beach, in very kind of Shawshank Redemption ending style, where John's fishing and the other dude's still drinking.
Seems too idyllic.
Is that so? Like the way it's written up is that they get away, but I always took that as that they don't.
Well, I don't always love seeing films from multiple perspectives. Like when I saw the perspective of Up, the animated film, because it was so gorgeous. This one article said that it was all taken in the place that he has a mental breakdown when he has to forego the house. So the rest of it is him in a retirement home, just thinking this happens and dreaming this. And then I read the one. Have you heard the one about Greece, where Summer Lovin, she almost went to the beach. She actually drowned at the beach, and this is her afterlife.
Oh my god!
She imagines herself having this summer fling that ends up becoming this beautiful romance in this musical, idyllic world, and that's why they fly off into the sunset in the car at the end.
That's hilarious. No, I haven't heard one.
But because of that, I sort of take these sort of hints and moments where you could go, well, if you stopped watching there, if it was roll credits there and then you had a post-credit sequence, which I'm a big fan of, because it really does separate you. You then go, okay, well, that's one ending, that could be one story, or you go, this is that other dimension. So in that one moment she gets so shocked and then gets killed, but her brain goes bang, this is what, and just because it's from her perspective and she's the one who's touching it. But then again, at the beginning of the film, I think it's like one of the first scenes, there's this, she's staring at the wall with a calendar that says Halloween.
I forgot about that. Yeah, because that's a good point too.
It's really surreal.
Yeah, there's that really. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that back up, Richard, or brought that into conversation, because you're right. It opens with her almost like it feels like she's in a prison cell.
Yeah.
The only thing that's on the wall is this calendar, and it's the month of November.
Yeah, all of the dates are crossed off except for the 30th of November.
Was
it?
The 31st of November.
Yeah,
October.
I don't know
I
if
can't get my dates right. Yeah. But it is surreal. But then, like, the fact that then that plays on that imagery at the end, where she is creating her own calendar in November, again makes me feel like this isn't,
making her own calendar, because at the end of that sequence, touches the beginning of the film.
Yes.
All the wall, all these hands come through the wall and shocks her, and she turns away, which I thought. That's if I was filming that as a director, I'm surprised they took that reaction from her, because it looks almost like a postcard. It looks almost like a snapshot, like the Jaws poster.
Yes.
You know? It looked picturesque. And so it made me think, just when you've mentioned that, because I never really sort of drew those two together, but what is it? The hand goes up onto the window of the helicopter. She's facing it in the similar position. Is her hand up? Like, is it mirroring?
I think so. I think you're right. Yeah.
That could be, as you say, like, it could be the end there, and that could be her afterlife, or it could be open to the viewer, or it could be anything. Because, as you say, the last film carries on, and I can't remember if Night of the Living Dead sort of has that open bit where you could, if you wanted to, say magically, magic bullet theory, this universe joins up with this one. Like, as you say, it ends with them getting into a helicopter, the last one with this
guy.
Like, is it the same sort of thing? Or a similar sort of vibe of story. But I don't know, because I'm always a big fan of saying both. Like, what's that taco girl? It's just like, can't we have both? At what point do you stop it? And from the Meisner technique of acting, which is a lot of the time you'll go, okay, here's our scene, the beginning of the scene to the end of the scene, but to get your motivations for the beginning of that scene, you'll go, okay, well, where have I come from? What have I done? What's my character been motivated to do that's got me to this point? Which now says, okay, now I'm here at this point, revved up to demand that you stop with the zombies or whatever, and then you do the same thing after it. So it's sort of improvisation beforehand and after the scene. And so I really like that. So you sort of go, well, what happens after the happy ending? Like the fact that we have ended this story where Prince Charming and Princess Aurora have ended in the castle means that we're supposed to end here. We don't want to go through divorce court in the Middle Ages.
No, that's right.
Henry VIII, no.
That's it. No, I think I like the way that it ends like that, though, too. I like that it's open for debate as to what we are witnessing.
Big contrast, similarity to, is it 28 Days Later, the ending of that one?
Yeah, exactly.
That ends in a way on a beach, a very picturesque sort of setting. And that was arranged because I heard that was supposed to end with him dying. Similar in the way of, have you heard of the original ending to I Am Legend with Will Smith?
Yeah,
the one with and there's no grenade, he doesn't die.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Listeners haven't seen that, look it up. The alternate ending, the original ending to I Am Legend, is brilliant. And I don't know why they didn't go with that. It makes the story fantastic. Absolutely brilliant.
Well, the Richard Matheson book, I Am Legend, that's based on, that was the core inspiration for Night of the Living Dead, essentially. And like Romero was very open about, the fact that he was riffing off that, and then had to tweak it, obviously, in order for it to work within the world that he was creating. But that was the essential, the premise of it started from that novel. So it makes sense you bring that into conversation, to be honest.
Witches too. My father knew about that. When he was just like, "Oh yeah, I knew that book." Oh, okay, it must have been like a Moby's Dick. Moby's Dick.
Talking about privates.
Wales, that story with whale.
Yeah.
It was a given reading that, like, a lot of people went through, but they were more like vampires, weren't they? They were sensitive to the light.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. There's a lot of vampire analogy or mythology, I should say, that's played within that one.
But
and that's basically where he took it and turned it into what he made it essentially.
Exactly, yeah, and I love it too. How people, a lot of they're like zombies. They're just shambling walkers. They're not really a threat, but it's that sort of thing of going, yeah, but like a troll that moves really slow, but once it gets to you and overcomes you, like you have to rest sometime. And these things, so that's what's brilliant about it. It's like there's tigers out there or lions that are sniffing us out and really want to 100% all the time get us, and that's their own. They don't sleep, they don't eat, they don't shit, or if they do, they.
There's there's actually a really quite good movie that came out. It kind of went a bit slightly under the radar. Those that are in the horror scene may well have heard of it, and it came out last year, directed by Colin Minihan. And it's called "It Stains the Sands Red," and the premise of it is that there is this woman stranded in the Nevada desert and gets attacked by a zombie, and she's trying to get away from it, but they're in the middle of nowhere, and it just keeps pursuing her.
It's not like in Zombieland, cardio doesn't help there.
yeah, that's it. I mean, it goes beyond that, like it does kind of stretch that story out somewhat. But I actually came away going, that was actually a fairly decent story.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I thought it was better than it. I mean, it's not brilliant, don't get me wrong, but I thought it was still better than some of the other stuff that came out there. I recommend watching it if you haven't seen it.
No, absolutely. I'm a big fan of those sort of like open waters, stranded in the middle, but it's a road movie too.
Yeah, it's a road movie. It's a road zombie movie. But do check it out. I think we're almost at the point of kind of wrapping up our conversation on this. I do like to kind of bow out with just kind of asking the question, like, do you think the movie stands strong today? And would you, if you were to try and recommend this movie to the current new generation of kids out there, would you, and how would you go about doing that?
Oh, definitely. But you'd sort of have to do that prerequisite of either do you like horror movies or do you like zombie movies. If they're a fan of The Walking Dead, I think that they would probably be a fan of it.
I agree there. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but like if they're just sort of Marvel movie watcher or like your conventional things, or even like some, I don't know, maybe some like superior intellect people who go like I'm a bit over the whole premise of zombies or vampire supernatural. That this film particularly really plays on that idea of it's not even so much about the argument of the human people, where that's a huge, obviously in this world. But it's that seeing what you can work with, and that's a human trait of the idea of going, okay, well, what can we work with? We have water, we can work with, we can make fire. Okay, we can work with that. What can we make with that? Oh, gold or steel, or from that and build from it. So it's brilliant. I loved seeing it from that idea of going, we stand on each other's shoulders. What do we do when Alexandria's library gets burnt?
Yes.
And you've got that sort of these people going, no, we need to keep burning. We need to keep tearing down these other structures. You're like going, but there's information that we could learn from this, and we could study from these things as well. And just that idea too of time. So I think that young people, getting over obviously the age of the film, probably more so than the other two. Maybe. I want to say that just because obviously all the other things I said you would easily get away with watching, like Dawn of the Dead, and still get all of that if you're a horror fan and a zombie fan. But I think that the lack of it does have a cohesive plot, Dawn of the Dead, but it is such a random ending, I find.
Yeah, I think it's a very word heavy script, this one.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of dialogue with not a lot actually happening, and it's only when like I said, when the wheels start coming off, that all of a sudden you're like, oh fuck, this is going to get serious, and things get really out of control. But there's a long period where it's all a bit of he said, she said.
We're waiting for the Bond guy to die. I just remember that phrase.
Bitchy moments, and it just doesn't. Yeah, and that's the one thing I think that's why I felt whenever I first watched it, I felt I didn't warm to it so much, but then I did enjoy it a lot better this time round. I must admit, I was like, actually, there's a lot more going on here that's actually a bit smarter than I originally gave it credit for.
But well, yeah, even with that Dawn of the Dead, the actor who plays, I can't remember who he is, but towards the end, you'll know him by his zombie walk, his iconic zombie walk, the one who finds the fake wall, because he's absolutely brilliant too. He's a fantastic actor who plays the straight man fantastically, and then plays the zombie character brilliantly too.
David MG you're talking about, the guy that really, really cool.
Because a really, really likable character, and then when you see him as a zombie, you really like him as a zombie too, but you're going, no, because at that point, it's all falling apart, and they've just got to go through the roof. But that point was a bit nail-bitey, But no, I think that audiences today, especially like, it's just getting over that idea of red paint explosions, but also too with that evil Ashes versus the Evil Dead. Because a friend of mine's in that. He's he plays the guy who's the Knights of Samaria.
He comes up in the third season.
Yeah, Lindsay Farron.
End of the second.
Brilliant. And his accent is fantastic. Like you can't even notice it's Australian.
No.
But that I was talking to someone who's another cast director, and she was saying that she hated it, and I was just like, I love it because it was so silly. Like, it wasn't scary, and it was like, but it's not really supposed to be scary.
No, I actually really loved that series too. I thought it was really good. It's just tongue.
The sperm bank fight.
And using the song "Take on Me" as well was just so good.
It's so good to see. Was it Bruce Campbell in a corset with a chainsaw again?
Look, I really loved that. I thought it was a great series. I think it probably had its I think it had its time. It would have been interesting to see where they took it in the future, because they never really did explore that. But
it'll be interesting to does get some sort of a small soft feature release, because that would be fantastic to see it. Get some sort of back. It feels like you can't do that sort of full-on rated gore, like you can shoot as many people and hit as many women as well, and show as many tits as you want, but you can't say too many F words, or show too many things, blood, that is. But within that, it seems like it's a perfect thing, especially with things like Deadpool and Logan and stuff like that, to take that opportunity. But even we say this, like I say it as if it's a modern thing, but as you said, Sin City previously, it gave a bit of experimentation to it, and that's where we can see these cool things, these artistic explosions, and like Django Unchained, where it's hard to be unleashed, and that's where we get these iconic things like gross things later, and the Hellraiser. I mean, that bit where he's respawning from the ground. I mean, that reversing the puppetry that they did there. So I think that it's really good to give people those sort of options. To at least it got a season on air, and it's such a shame that at least it's good to hear that George Romero took that break. He was like, no, I want to do something else. It wasn't like he couldn't get the funny, or he couldn't do this.
Well, as he said, he ended up doing. He was always going to be tighter. He ended up doing 6 movies. So it's. And we'll, as I said, we'll come to talk about the final trilogy at some point during this podcast series, but we'll peg that one for now.
Yeah, and none of the bad ones, none of the sequels to what is it?
No.
No,
we won't touch those. No, not at all. All right, man. Look, I think we'll tie up there. But as always, it was a pleasure talking with you, Richard. And hopefully you guys enjoyed our discussions on the Day of the Dead. Stick around, because we will talk around. Keep on tuning in and listening, because we will talk about the other Romero films as well, as we continue our discussions in tribute to him. Once again, I'm your host, Paul Farrell, and I'm joined by, on this podcast, Richard. Thanks so much for joining in.
Thank you very much, mate. It was a lot of fun. Good to get all that off my chest.
Yes, yes.
I have it.
We hung our privates out and showed our maybe dicks, and it was all good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh,
yes.
Cool. Okay.
No, that was fantastic. It was good getting back to the bubs.
Absolutely.
What do you think happened at the end of the film? Nothing happens to him, does it?
To Bub? No, he's roaming around. He's still out there.
I smell a sequel.
Yeah,
the other one's only...
yeah, another one. I mean,
yeah, or he turns up being, Dennis Hopper in Land of the Dead? Yeah. It's just a huge twist. It's a Shyamalan twist.
That's it. Bubba the Dead.
Yeah, Bubba the Dead.
You heard it here, folks. Okay. We'll catch you later.
I was completely not aware of it, but the very different styles of filmmaking, yeah. And yeah, I could see how it might be a completely different film with a different edit, definitely different sound design, because that's something that we didn't touch on, but some of the sound design was quite, I found it almost comical. It felt a bit, it felt like it was meant to be quite light. It didn't real somber, necessarily somber feeling. So quite interesting to see.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's something that I haven't actually had the chance to do, and I probably should, seeing as I've watched the original so many times. Even like when I don't have the notes in front of me, but when Romero first released this, I think it was for one of the big film festivals like Cannes or something like that, where he needed to get it out, and it was quite a long film, and he ended up having to cut it back for its original release. So that's why there's a thing called the director's cut out there, which was the original one that he'd set up for that. So there are various different versions of this. And actually, I think it was only a couple of years ago there was a Blu-ray release in the Italian market which had the Argento cut produced in 4K. So it's definitely out there for watching.
Wow. Okay.
And I think it does include the original theatrical cut and the extended Cannes cut of the film in that one. So it's definitely, fans of this film should definitely get that one. As we said as well, there was a remake of this film as well. So it's definitely been in and around and had a significant impact. For me, like when I watch it, there is this dated feel of it, but there is also this nostalgicness that comes with it. The whole kind of concept of it being set within a mall, and everything that comes with the imagery that comes with that, coupled with Savini's work in this, because the effects are pretty kind of gory, suitably gory, and I'm a fan of the practical effects in films, and I do like kind of seeing that on display. And as I said, at the forefront, Savini was a master of his work, and he still is, still creating stuff to this day. And so for me, it does elevate it slightly above probably where the film would sit from a neutral point of view. If somebody was coming at this from a neutral point of perspective, they may not like it as well as, say, a true horror fan like myself would. But saying that, I do kind of see that it is dated, and it has got a stilted feel to it these days when you compare it to the likes of the fact that, as I said, all those films that we were mentioning that come out, you throw in the fact that 28 Days Later just shake things up a bit by having the fast zombies and stuff. You've got The Walking Dead, which is continually shuffling its way on the screens as we speak. Dragging its dead corpse around. But even like just recently, so at the time of this record, I mean, this is coming out in October when we release this, but at the time of the record, there's a film called The Cured that's come out on DVD, I think, called The Cured. It stars Ellen Page. It's an Irish film. And I really recommend people watch it because I think it's actually offers a different take on the zombie culture, in the sense that it's looking at the fact that zombies, people that have been infected, there's a cure, and so they become human again, but they still retain the memories of when they were zombies, and the impact that has. And there's a whole kind of racial divide that happens. People aren't willing to accept the cured, as they call them, back into society because of what they did. It's a very clever film because of that, and because it's set in Ireland and the unrest that is continuously in Ireland anyway. It adds to that kind of tension within the setting. It's a good film, and as I said, offers a whole new take on the genre, which is kind of cool.
Which is, I think, kind of what the genre needs.
Yeah,
I think that's been my thing the last couple of years. You know, for a while there it was vampires, and then now it's been zombies. You know, I mean, 28 Days Later obviously happened quite a while ago.
Yeah.
You know, the last few years there's been a lot of zombie.
Yeah, you got to look. I still cringe at Warm Bodies, the rom-com.
Yeah,
that to me is just pushing it a bit too far.
But that being said, there is some good zombie stuff. Like I quite enjoy iZombie.
Yeah, I was literally thinking that.
Yeah, it's like, you know, again, it's a slightly different take on on the whole zombies genre, and you know, it's gone a bit weird, but I did love the last season. But
yeah, me too. Yeah, I think that's a good example of trying something a bit different that's quirky and a bit fun and works.
And Walking Dead lost me, you know, around the same time Negan came in. So
yeah, I know. I think it's lost a lot of people, and there's strong rumours about the direction it's going in the next series as well, which is going to really shake it up. Which for me, if it's true,
it needs
it's going to be the final nail in the coffin for that film. Personally, not film series. Cool. Well, look, I think that kind of wraps us up. Unless there's anything else you want to add to our discussions on Dawn of the Dead. Any last thoughts on the film?
No, I don't think so. I think I've kind of covered everything I want to say. As I said, I'd love to see this European cut, because I do think actually that would be quite interesting.
Yeah, me too. I am tempted. I don't know at what point, but I am tempted to delve into the Argento kind of films, because personally he had such a huge impact on my horror movie experience. But there's a few more of these to shuffle through yet before I get to him. But he's definitely at the forefront of my mind when I do these discussions. Cool. Well, look, I completely agree. At some point we will kind of no doubt reawaken that one and have a look at that. Well, until then, it's probably time to sign off. And I'd just like to say, on behalf of myself, Saul Morte, thank you for tuning in and listening. And once again, thank you, Greer.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
No worries. And good luck with everything going forward with you. Big changes abound.
As long as I'm not flying off in a helicopter with who's chasing me, I think I'm in a pretty good place.
That's right. Okay, until next time, keep on listening for more Romero discussions as we shuffle our way through the Walking Dead series. Goodbye.
You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Music supplied by Peter Nezik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates.